Hello and welcome. I am Fan, and today I will be going over Shenanigan, where we can get out a level 4 blend on turn 2 via abusing Claire's effects through Reflector. And I will quickly go over the cards as shown here. So we are using Claire, and she allows to put an additional gem down on turn 1. And we want to use Reflector to do this once more. Though, if we just put a gem onto Hickory, then Hickory won't have a second gem, so he won't be able to call out for Reflector. Obviously, if we start with Reflector in hand, we can just put all the gems on Claire and it won't be an issue. But if we have to do it through Hickory, which is the most likely, we'll have to use Francisco's effect, and he allows us to move gems from and to him 3 times a turn. So we can take the first gem onto Claire, put the second gem on Francisco, and then pulse the first gem from Claire over to Francisco, and then both gems to Hickory afterwards. Hickory then finds Reflector, who allows to copy a non-blended hero and copy that effect. On top of that, we're using Selma to make sure that we are finding the gems that we need. Alright, so you do need to start out with a Cryo and a Lucio on top of any of the other gems that you need. So in this case, I'll have Pyro gem as well. And then you start by finding the blend that you want to blend, because you want to be able to find the blend that you need to blend onto the hero. Otherwise, why are you trying to set it up so you can blend it on turn 2 if you aren't finding it? So that's why we're running Selma. And you can run Monica as well to just have that higher level, but I tend to just find Selma because with Monica you actually need to find at least one blend already that you can exchange, so it's a bit more inconsistent in that regard. And I already played Shardbuster with this before, and it's a good contender, and I will explain as to why later on. Alright, so we start by putting Cryo gem on Claire, using her effect to put a Lucio gem on Francisco. Francisco pulls a gem from Claire onto himself. That's the first move. And then the second move and the third move. Gems. Now we can find Reflector from our decks. There we are. And you just need a one-off Reflector because this is the only stage where we need it. Then we use Reflector to copy a non-blended hero, and in this case it's Claire, to put down a Pyro gem. Alright, that's turn 1. Now for turn 2, you want to get into the last gem you need. In this case it's a Capra gem, or you want to find a Bishop in this case, or if you're running a deck that runs Cone, then you need to find Cone, obviously. And I'm just gonna put it out here to showcase. Then you want to put the Capra gem on Francisco from hand. Then you copy Francisco's effect with Reflector to put a gem from Hickory to Claire directly, losing Reflector, and that means we now have 3 moves which we perfectly can use to get all gems onto Claire. That was 1, 2, and 3 moves, and now we have all 4 gems, and then we can use Shardbuster. So that's the principle in it. And I have here collected a list of blends that I think fits quite well with it, because what you want to do is that you want a blend that's actually just worth it to get out early. Otherwise, why are you rushing it if it's not enough to win you round 1, if it's not enough to give you enough bonus for round 2, give you enough strength to just settle it round 2 and round 3. So that's why I have Shardbuster. Jewel Puffer can be used to some extent, but I'm not a big fan of it. Polish Duster is great because you are heavily level limited, as you can see here. You're having a level 4, level 3, or level 4, and then level 1 and level 2. So before round 2, where you can begin exchanging your heroes, you are heavily limited by your levels. And you need to consider that by playing bumps, so you can begin playing level 5s, or you're playing Glorybringer and just putting level 4s out everywhere. And that is actually a good solution, especially because on top of this, because you really want to find the gems around the turn 2, not to speak about finding the gems for turn 1 in the first place, you want to run Pyro together with the Lucio to find Bishop, or you want to find Terra together with the Cryo to find cones, to use cones. And in this deck, you can run with Glorybringer, you can run both, and it becomes quite consistent to get turn 2, though. So what you want to do here is, let's say we didn't find the Capro, but we did find the Pyro. So if we draw into Bishop, then we can Bishop onto Claire and we're good. Then we just find the Capro gem and we have Shardbuster. Another reason is that if you don't draw into Bishop and you don't draw into the gems that you need, but you do have Lucio and Pyro on Hickory, so you start out by having the Cryo there, you use Reflector to get one gem away that you don't need. There we go. It doesn't matter. Alright, then you can find the Bishop and get the gems you need, and then you can begin using Francisco, but Francisco will use another turn to get the gems where you need them to be, but at least you get it done. Like with Hickory, you can at least find the gems that you need and get them onto Claire. By running both Cone and Bishop, like as long as you just draw, as long as you get the Lucio Cryo gem to get Reflector in the first place, then and as long as you just get the Terra gem or the Pyro gem, you can get the last gem you need. If you draw into Cone or Bishop with the right gem, you can get it on turn 2, but otherwise you make sure you can get it on turn 3 at least. So that's some of the consideration you want to get into, and try to play gems on side that support it. Here we have Angel with Polish Duster and Shardbuster in one deck, where I take it early with Shardbuster, go into Polish Duster later on with Verve Conflict or Effect, which you can't do anymore, but something similar to that where you can copy strong effects. And Aurora Beamer is somewhat of a good choice because you can get some good gems early, but I think you're too level restricted, so that's not great. And Hail Dominator, 5 attack in the center. It doesn't have any support from the Cone and the Bishop, but you don't have negative effects of Shardbuster. But you cannot switch it around easily as you can with Shardbuster and Angel to get around defenses, which is another thing you have to consider, how effective it actually is, how much use you can get out of it. To make it more consistent early on, of course, remember to consider your gem makeup. You want to get a high level of Cryo, high amount of Lucio gems to make sure that you actually get the gem makeup you need to get started. So it's very inconsistent in that sense. So do consider that when building around this setup. But if you do it correctly, if you get it right, you can have a level 4 blend on turn 2, and that can be massive for winning round 1. And if it's not, then maybe it's just not worth it, because in Gemblenders you fall out pretty soon for round 2, where people have a lot of damage usually. So do consider the meta you're playing, do consider how consistent you can make it, and how worth it is considering the level restriction that is in the deck, and have fun with it. Thank you for watching, and see you around.